Welcome back to my channel. When we last left Ivy, she had just finished the Holiday Cracker plushies set and gotten a good head start on a few other collections as well. Today, I wanted to focus on starting more sets from other regions I hadn't been to yet. I didn't want to get too grindy, so we're going to be hitting up a few locations to start more than a handful of collections and try to work on the ones we already have. So let's get started. Ivy got herself some dinner, and our sweet Ginger was happily napping under the kitchen table. I went ahead and took a look at the official list of collections so I could figure out where we should hit up first. At this time, I didn't have any more Nature's Calling quests to work on, so it was all about starting new today. I came across colorful marbles, which seemed easy to get started on. You get them from the night market in Tomorang, something I'd never done before. And while I was at it, I'd find some tassels as well. It said they were also available at the night market and a few other locations in Tomorang. Ivy's needs were all met, so it was time to hit the dusty trail. Ginger can come.
Amos cannot.
We started off at this cute little park with our adventure buddy in our arms. I had never been to this neighborhood before, so I wasn't sure where everything was. I found some tents set up on the sidewalk, and with my expert knowledge of what a market looks like, I knew for sure this must be it. I checked out what kind of street food they had, even though Ivy wasn't hungry yet. I'm pretty sure though that when you eat street food, your sim gets the recipe added to their list of meals they can make, so I'm treating that like a hidden collection as well. She got the Malaysian satay, and little did I know at the time, it would not agree with Ivy's gut. While she ate her diarrhea-inducing street food, I took a look around the market to find our treasures. It is so important to note that there is a bathroom right here behind the market. See it? Good, because when I was playing, I didn't catch it. I looked around some more, and most of these tents seemed unoccupied, until I found this one at the corner run by none other than Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I'm well aware he doesn't look like Dr. Doof, and he has a face only a mother could love, but this is a sim my daughter and I made, so I guess you could say I love his face in a weird creator deity type way. As luck would have it, he was our marble guy, and Dr. D had 2 marbles and 2 tassels on him. So I sent Ivy to go fishing, and I figured I could take a look around, but I noticed her running like this. She needed a toilet, and she needed it immediately. Jumping into action, I paused the game so she could avoid public humiliation and scoured the streets for a public bathroom. Remember that bathroom I showed earlier? I couldn't find it. I was literally playing going, do people in Tomorang not poop? But in reality, I was the big dummy because I never turned my camera to face the correct way. After all the panicked searching, I found a bathroom, all the way on the other side of town. And the race was on. The race against Ivy's butthole explosion. I sped up time and watched as our hero clenched her cheeks and ran her ass past another public restroom to get to the one on the opposite side of the map from her. Time was of the essence. She ran with a quickness to save those jeans. Just when I thought she couldn't hold it any longer, she made it, just in the nick of time. I admired the scenery while Ivy did her business. And I checked my mission progress. The description said that I could find more tassels at the tiger sanctuary on the other side of town, on the beaches, and in a nearby cave. Took one more look around this side of town before proceeding to the beaches and tiger sanctuary. I searched and searched to see if there were any treasures to grab before saying goodbye to this neighborhood. Then I got to thinking, where's my dog? I clicked on her, and she was just being good, sitting at the market enjoying the atmosphere. The food vendor tried and failed to sell her something.
I am a dog. I have no money.
Ivy was back in the green for all her needs and ran to get herself a frog out of a log. One last skim of the area, no collectible left behind. And it was time to move on with our mission. We arrived at a riverfront property. The tassel description said to check the beaches, so that was the first thing I did. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, so I just clicked the sand. Noticed I could draw in the sand and decided Ivy is definitely the type of girl to draw a heart in the sand. Her little heart is so cute, and she dug in the sand and found a dirty diaper Real nice people. If you thought I'd be skipping frogs and fossils and such, you would be sorely mistaken. I am here for everything. I continued my search around the area and admired the pretty scenery. This world is super pretty at night, and I imagine it's nice during the day too. More beaches and sand to dig through. I checked out what Ivy had gathered so far, and besides the couple frogs, we hadn't progressed any further than a diaper and a baby toy. People in Tomorang out here just throwing the contents of their diaper bags out onto the beaches. The next beach was across the way, and Ivy, in true Sim fashion, happily swam the entire distance. When I checked out what else was over there, I noticed the aforementioned cave. I wish I could tell you Ivy arose from the waters with the grace and elegance of a goddess born from the sea, but that is not the case, as instead, she had a real bad case of sea legs that cursed her to waddle like a duck all the way out of the water. With swagger and confidence, she slowly approached her target before making her way over to the cave.
Very slowly.
And it was worth it because that time she found a tassel. Into the cave she went. Immediately she was met with a tunnel to another cave. Caveception, as the game put it. Ivy went on with the expedition. Next, it was said that Ivy could only rely on sounds and vibes to find the exit. She pushed forward. When she emerged from the tunnel, she found herself in a small oasis all her own. The game asked me if she should stay put or if she should examine the rocks nearby that supposedly housed critters. As a result of our bravery, Ivy ended up with another tassel. That was now 4 we had in our collection. Only one more location left to explore, and that was the tiger sanctuary. I forgot it was the middle of the night, so the only option was to sneak in. I wasn't going to, then I thought, why not? What are they gonna do, feed me to the tigers? I don't think they'd do that. And with that, Ivy swam all the way back across the abyss with a fitness level of 2. She was starting to get pretty wet and cold though. Hey, where's Ginger? Like that, a second Phineas and Ferb reference within like 5 minutes. She was just sitting happily in the rain. She didn't seem to feel too bad. Ivy completed the trek to the tiger sanctuary and she was feeling the burn, but also really cold. But by the time she got there, they were open and she couldn't sneak in anymore, so I thought just visiting was good enough for us. Unfortunately, the tigers were too hard to see when she went, but Ivy is a look at the bright side type, so she looked up to see the animals she could see. At least she got to see some birds and monkeys up in the trees, so it wasn't a total waste. After spending all night in Tomorang, it was time to head home. We arrived at our little casita, and neither of the girls was feeling too hot anymore. Ivy was soaking wet and very winky. So she took Ginger inside and headed upstairs to catch up on some sleep in her warm, cozy bed. She got in bed at 9:15 in the morning, but that's okay. She's not a slave to the 9 to 5. While Ivy got all rested up, I decided to put some of her treasures on display. And as fate would have it, who else would call us in our sleep but Amos? He wanted to come over and hang out. I found this little toy out on the beach and I decided to keep it. I got her a toy box so she could regularly collect marbles at home. Later that afternoon, Ivy woke up feeling a little hungry, stinky, when we got a call from none other than Amos. He said since I didn't want him over, maybe I'd want to go to his house, to which the answer was no. So I checked out what was up with these tassels we got. It said that when I had collected all 10 of them, I could combine them for a reward. I got more of these shelves, and I don't want to hear from anyone that I should have just gotten one at a time for each item I had already acquired. Looking back, I'm like, why the f did I even do it like this? I think I was trying to just like have a museum area mapped out already, but check out my froggies. I got to rummaging in my toy box because I could now find marbles at home. She scavenged in a toy box that literally had like a handful of toys in it and found a marble somehow, but it was one of the 2 we already owned. I searched around my usual spot for anything to dig up, but all I could find was an axolotl stump. So I told Ivy to go fishing while I continued looking around. And for the 3rd time in one day, Amos asked me to hang out. If not at my house, and not at his house, maybe we could go to a festival. Amos, ask one of your crushes, or one of the several people you asked me if you should hang out with, if they will attend the romance festival with you. I displayed our newest axolotl with the others. They're such cuties. We got a tetra fish that we mounted and hung on the wall, and then I thought, well, I might as well get started on the garden, and then money shouldn't be an issue for us. The first thing I got were daisies and strawberries. I went to plant them in the corner of the yard, assuming I could just plant them in the dirt, but for some reason the game wouldn't let me just plant them there. No biggie, I thought. I'd just get some pots for them, but I could only afford one. However, I could afford another seed packet, and the plants inside the packets are worth simoleons, so I started a new cycle of buying seeds, planting one, selling the rest, and buying more seeds and pots. Not only that, I had some decor items in the house I didn't really need, so I decided it was best to say goodbye, and Ivy got to gardening. And I repeated this process a couple times of buying seeds, planting one, and selling the remainder. Garden montage commencing now! As with most things so far, it was a good start, but nowhere near completion. Another collection I could get started on from home was pen pals, so I told Ivy to hop on the computer and post on the pen pal forums. And after a busy day of loot hunting, it was time for Ivy to hit the hay. Our little museum was starting to take shape. It wouldn't be long before we had a real brick and mortar setup. In the morning, Ivy had to pee and get some breakfast. She refused to do anything else until these needs were satisfied. So she got to cooking up some breakfast after she released the wrath of the rest of her satay on her toilet. Another day, another phone call from Amos, asking me if he should get to know a bitch. Sure, Amos, I don't know why you only do things if I tell you I think it's a good idea. What did you do before we met last week, huh? You were like super old. Have you never done anything in your whole life? Am I the first person you ever met and you've been living under a rock this whole time? Huh? Son of a bitch? Is that why you're so eager to get out and meet people? Did I change your life? Did I open the door to new experiences? Oh, I see. Yeah, hang out with her. Ivy was now able to sell the harvestables out of her garden, but only 2 plants were ready, so we only made 18 simoleons. Searched through my toys for a mysteriously manifesting marble, and queued up to dig. My daily to-do list was getting longer and longer, and would prove to take its toll on Ivy, who loves to explore.
Dig montage right now.
Ivy found a quartz crystal, which got me curious about gemology, so I'd get a table for it when I could. I went back to the house and put some of our new treasures on the shelves, sorted out the ones I already had, and got some more pots to plant my other seeds in. This process had to be streamlined. Amos wanted to come over, but I was way too busy to have any distractions, so that would have to wait. I impetuously purchased more shelves instead of rearranging the ones I already had, thus expanding my collection of empty shelves. Meanwhile, Ivy was enjoying some time alone outdoors. This was a good pastime for her while I decorated the house. I was trying to figure out how I'd display our My Sims trophies. All I could do right now was put them on the desk because my empty shelves were too precious to give up for these. Got rid of this window so the goddamn passers-by couldn't get any free sneak peeks into what we were doing in here. Sold my dresser for more money because I needed displays more than clothes storage. Sims pull whole outfits out of thin air all the time, so it's fine. And I got that gemology table so I could learn what this was all about now. I had 1 crystal on me and chose one of the cheapest cuts. And she also completed a milestone in her aspiration. Now we had some new objectives to complete, including breeding frogs, which sounded interesting and I had no idea was a feature in the game. Now that I had a couple new pots, Ivy got to planting the other seeds we had. Ginger was sitting by us being so good, so I told Ivy to praise her just for the heck of it. We checked for replies on the pen pal forums and got a reply from a sim from Twinbrook. That's the world from The Sims 3 Ambitions. I remember getting that when it came out, and I made a firefighter girl with cherry red hair, so I'm pretending that's my pen pal. She got to work on cutting that quartz into a tower and was able to reach gemology level 2. Ivy could now discuss crystal properties and cut emeralds. Amos gave me a ring, but he would have to wait for right now. I had too much going on. Ivy admired her work, and after all that welding for some reason, a perfectly cut quartz tower poofed in front of her. If I charged it, it would grant double satisfaction points. words. She typed up a very sweet letter to my sim from 2010 and gained some writing skill as a result. After some rummaging in the toy box, she finally found a new marble at the bottom, Al Simhara, which is also a Sims 3 reference. It's the town you could go to in Egypt. We put it in the jar with the others. Ivy had been so busy, and now is a good time to take care of her needs, so she got to cooking. Just a little salad for now, but it got her up to level 4 cooking. I want her cooking level up so she'd eventually have tons of recipes to choose from. I purchased a crystal charging grid, and Ivy placed our quartz tower on it to charge in the moonlight so we could see the effect of its power. And now it was time for Ivy to get some rest so she could go through this whole grind again tomorrow. First things first, we needed some breakfast before knocking out the daily regimen. She got to preparing some, and I queued up some tasks for her. Our quartz was fully charged, so I'd bring that along with me. And of course, Amos called to see if I'd come over. Not yet, Amos, not yet. Ivy finished up breakfast and got to selling her harvestables from the garden. And we will dig, then dig some more, then frog, axolotl, followed of course by digging. These steps were encoded in the fibers of Ivy's DNA and must not be performed in any other order. Asked on another date? You happy little slut, go for it. And Ivy ran right into another time-saving montage. Of course, as she hunted for treasure, I put them on shelves and sold the duplicates. We were making slow but steady progress on everything we had started. Found another crystal so I'd cut it later to see its powers, and a My Sims trophy I already had. When I checked in on Ivy as she was getting ready to cut her crystal, I saw we had another bathroom emergency on our hands. At least we were at home this time and I know where the bathroom is here. But I didn't want to cancel the action of cutting it because I couldn't remember if I paid for it already. So we had to race against the bladder once again. Real world problems stared me in the face now. The bills were due and I did not have enough money to pay them. And the garden was not producing in abundance quite yet. I told her to take a potty break and then get back to it. I was trying to come up with a plan to pay the bills, since money was very come and go around here. When she finished cutting her gemstone, I told her to place it on the charging grid. Amos called for a 10th time, and by now, it was really starting to wear me out again. Unfortunately for Amos, I still had way too much to do to make any time for him. When our crystal was fully charged, it said that it would help with romantic socials, and we just aren't focused on that part of Ivy's life right now. She is a treasure hunting loner, so she would be fine selling this to pay the bills. I decided to go ahead and sell our other crystal too. Then I remembered that toy boxes always came with toys, and since we had no children and none coming anytime soon, those would be perfect to sell for a cause as noble as the bills. So one by one, I sold the toys for way more simoleons than they were worth, but kept the one we found on the beaches of Tomorang. So I had Ivy go over to the mailbox to pay the bills, because I am an old-fashioned simmer, and always forget you can use your phone. And then she proceeded to hunt for another marble. I had to look this one up, but the Eyes of Pinnacle Point is another Sims 3 reference, referring to a lot in Sunset Valley called Pinnacle Point. After a long day of working around the house, she was itching to do some exploring. As she laid down for the night, I checked out the list of collectibles. I was very pleased to see my progress on the ones I had started, and I was ready for something new, because that's kinda what this whole run is about, trying everything and completing sets of collectibles. The first thing Ivy did the next day was check the Pen Pal forums, and had apparently gotten a very steamy reply from a sim from Riverview, which is also a town from The Sims 3. It was the first and only free downloadable town for The Sims 3 that players would receive as a gift when they registered their copy of the game online, so it was an anti-pirating incentive. Before we went anywhere, I had to do my daily digging, so I queued up those actions for Ivy to take care of. And as she took care of her plants, she achieved gardening skill level 2. As we continued to advance this skill and our plants evolved to higher quality, the harvestables would be worth more and more. Ivy made her way through the park to grab anything shiny she saw sticking out of the dirt. Like a crafty little goblin, she stuck her fingers in the ground and unearthed every treasure she laid eyes on. We cracked open several fossils and a time capsule, and sold duplicates of everything I already had on display. I told Ivy to make something to eat so that we could prepare to explore a new world. Then she enjoyed a little BLT, and I took another look at the collections list to decide where we'd go next. After looking at my options, I landed on simmies. They could be found in Mount Komorebi, in vending machines, during festivals, and by exploring around town. So just like that, we hit the road for Mount Komorebi. Upon arrival, I was immediately regretful that I brought my small puppy to play in deep snow, so I put her inside the bathhouse to hang out. Then I searched for my first Simmy vending machine and found one just down the way. While I opened my first capsule, Ivy stepped over to the other machine and grabbed a handful of Void Critter cards. Ivy opened her first capsule to reveal Buddy. Unfortunately, I encountered a new problem, and that's that our vending machine items would occasionally get stuck in the machine, and the only option was to shake it. I remembered reading once that more people have died from vending machines falling on them than from shark attacks. So we proceeded with caution. My heart dropped when she made this face, but luckily she made it out alive this time, and she got her toy, but at what cost? We opened the capsule, which changed colors to a rarer valued Simmy, and we got Mayor Whiskers, the mayor of Brindleton Bay. Ivy bought more capsules, and I opened our packs of Void Critters.
Not now, Amos.
We had another common capsule to open and was delighted to see the Snowy Escape mascot Yamachan. The next one we had was Old Gabby, also from My Sims. I pulled out the collections journal to check my progress. 5 out of 12 Simmies ain't too bad, and I had found 4 out of 20 Void Critters. We were pretty much out of money, so I wanted to move on to something else at this point. I thought I'd go to Myshuno to look for snow globes and city posters, but I searched up and down every single neighborhood in that goddamn city and none had spawned. Amos called to tell me he'd fallen in love yet again, but seriously, I traveled to each and every neighborhood in Myshuno and couldn't find a single thing. I had wasted the entire rest of the day looking around for nothing. I was dumbfounded by the lack of collectibles laying around that were always there when I'd played other games in Myshuno. It was pretty discouraging, but I wasn't going to let it get the best of me. So I pulled out my phone and we headed back to Tomorang. It was nighttime, so I thought I'd check out the night market, even though I barely had any money after buying some food in Myshuno. First, I glanced around the park here to grab whatever I could find. This time, there was a dirt pile in addition to the frog log, so we were already off to a better start than the last time. Ivy caught some fish so that maybe we could sell them to afford some marbles and tassels. She was getting too hot in her winter wear and laid down in the rain like any ignoramus would do. I made her stop that so she could change clothes, but she was just having a ball in the rain. At this point, it seemed that Ivy officially lost her marbles. Finally, she got back to her fishing to try and get some money before the market ended. That got us enough simoleons to get the one marble the guy was selling that we didn't already have. Then Ivy was ready to head home. It had been a successful little day in my opinion, but Ivy was tired, so she palmed Ginger and set her down nicely inside. Then she took her happy ass to bed and I got to work on our showcase. I had a ton of stuff to go through, and I wasn't sure how I'd go about showing them all. I had so many empty shelves, but I wanted everything to be neat and organized instead of a hodgepodge of random stuff. So some items I would wait to put out until I had appropriate displays. Before I knew it, Ivy was awake, so I sent her to tend to the garden. That collection was starting to pay off as it gave us a little more than 100 simoleons daily, but we were still hurting for some more money. After that, Ivy would get herself some breakfast while I went on to the next task. I checked on the computer and Ivy now had the option to ask her pen pals for postcards. I got her all queued up to ask both of her Sims 3 pen pals for postcards and then post on the forum for the next pen pal. Ivy enjoyed her breakfast when suddenly everything I told her to do went away and she wanted to play with Ginger instead. That's fine and all, but we had work to do. I redid her pen pal actions and she said she couldn't do it, so I figured the My Sims trophies were in her way, so I begrudgingly moved them over to my precious empty shelves. Luckily, I found that I could fit 3 at a time on each of these little shelves. Then I tried once again to get her to write her goddamn pen pals, and this time she got right to it. So then it was time to do
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
The Pinky and the Brain.
and we got to digging. She found a couple fossils in My Sims trophies, and she got a call from Amos. I told Ivy to go fishing so I could work on our museum a little bit. We were super close to finishing fossils, and I added a couple more to our display. Fish were coming along as well. Our money problems were solved when Ivy caught yet another strange ring. I knew exactly what to do and began examining it, and we were instructed to see the ring bearer. Why is this dude calling me nonstop? This is actually crazy! Ivy sleepily got into bed and we'd take care of the ring tomorrow. Ivy got some breakfast and anticipated her 5,000 simoleon venture to be a breeze. Before I could commence that journey, I had some chores to take care of, starting with the garden. Checked the pen pal forums, which gave us a new pen pal from yet another Sims 3 town, Sunset Valley, home to the goths and land grabs. We received our first 2 postcards in the mail, and she wrote to our new Sims 3 friend while I hung up the postcards. This is a very fun collection in my opinion, since every pen pal is from a previous Sims game world, and actually that's something I'm really enjoying about many of these collections, the fact that so many have references to older games. Ivy continued working on her daily checklist, but we were already halfway through this day and hadn't started the ring quest at all. This was ultimately becoming a grind. I had some ideas for how I could make this a little easier, but we'd need to open for business for that to happen. Item by item, we were filling up those empty shelves, but there were still so many more things to find. I found that by using the cheat bb.moveObjects, which I always have enabled with Twisted Mexie's Better Build and Buy mod, I could place the shelves so that they slightly overlap and become a longer single shelf that didn't overlap most items. Then I started looking around the neighborhood for that sad ring bear, but he didn't appear to be in my side of town, so I headed to the park. When I arrived at the park, I got to searching for collectibles for Ivy to dig up while I looked for the bear, but I didn't see any, and he wasn't in any of the usual places. I tried to see if the fountain would automatically give me the option to look for clues, but it did not, so I had to find that bear to progress in the quest. He was nowhere to be found, and now I was getting pretty frustrated with how everything was going. It was like the game didn't want me to succeed, but I refused to give up until I had an exciting conclusion with enough of a cliffhanger to spark interest in a future video, and I would achieve that no matter how long it took. We arrived back home and I had Ivy tend her garden. With this shelving hack, I could now display things like fossils, axolotls, and frogs side by side. I rearranged my shelves for the 1000th time and mapped out display locations for all the sets of collectibles I was currently working on. I also like that with this cheat enabled, you can freely move objects if you hold Alt rather than them snapping into place. But you have to be careful placing things in the way of where Sims walk because their dumb little pixel brains can't figure out how to squeeze through tight areas. I only had one more fossil to find to complete the set, and I was elated. However, I had sold some in the beginning, so I had to find some once again to have the whole set on display. And my dumb little human brain wanted to keep moving stuff around. I didn't know the best way to show some items still. Axolotls and fossils were both collections of 15, so that was easy, 3 rows of 5. But my Sims were a collection of 20, and I could fit 3 on a shelf, so I'd need 7 shelves that couldn't overlap, or else the trophies could get stuck in each other, and the height of my ceiling only allowed for them to be stacked 5 high. While I did some bad mental math, Ivy fed Ginger and went off to bed.
This was the moment Amos had been waiting for. I agreed to hang out with him.
Here he was, Amos Story, the crazy man at the park who told me he heard voices and has called me on the phone an average of 3 times a day ever since. I assumed this party must have been a gathering of all his friends and lovers. I did a little peruse around the gardens to see if there was anything to further me along on my personal quest while Amos went on to hang out with his people. There really wasn't anything to find, but the map was really beautiful, so I enjoyed looking around it. I love and hate the worlds in The Sims 4. Most are so beautiful and charming, but they're crazy small. I always liked the openness of towns in The Sims 3, and the fact that towns had tons and tons of lots and rabbit holes. Sunset Valley had 92 lots, while Willow Creek only has 21. It did probably contribute to how poorly the game ran, but there was so much to do in every town. Ivy read a little bit about the history of the house, which told us that the house had accidentally caught fire with its residents inside after the lord of the house hurled a painting into the fireplace. One last look around the estate to make sure I didn't leave anything of value behind, and I ended Amos's snazzy soiree early to go home and get some food and go to bed. Until next time, Amos. Ivy needed to eat something, and it was pretty late already, so something quick was in order. Had herself a little ham and cheese sandwich when I decided to move some stuff around. When she finished eating, Ivy went off to bed, and I put the simmies on the shelves, and was pleased to see I could also fit 3 on each shelf. It was time to get down to business. Today we would find all there was to find around here, and accomplish every daily task, and I'd find that bitch-ass ring bear once and for all. The harvest was abundant, and I watched the simoleons roll in. Ivy went inside to write her pen pal and find another after she checked for a marble in the toy box. But alas, we already had that one, so I sold it. As I queued up her dig routine, I was hoping we'd dig up the final fossil we needed. Ivy happily ran over to the park at the speed of light to get her hands dirty. I anxiously extracted her fossils to find the last one. We had found every single fossil. I jumped for joy because I now had 2 finished sets in the journal. I would have to look for a while to find the rest to put on display, but after putting this one up I saw I only needed 3 more, so that wasn't too bad. Frogs were still a ways away from being done, so in a moment of lucidity, I purchased a single shelf for my one frog. Then it was time to hunt me a sad blue bear. I searched all over this side of town to find him, with no luck, so I told Ivy to hit up the park. Back at the park, he was still nowhere to be found. I was worried I might have broken this quest somehow, since that is something I'm known to do in most games. I had just spent the last hour or so in this game looking around for things and coming home empty-handed. As I came back around to the fountain, I checked again to see if I could search for clues, and all I saw was the wish options instead. After mulling it over, I figured Ivy is the kind of girl to wish for the happiness of others, so that maybe they'd stop coming to her for happiness. Ivy is kind, but definitely introverted. That's when we heard from our boy. The calls still wouldn't stop even after I agreed to going somewhere with him. I mean, yeah, we didn't really socialize at all, but I went to the thing. Give me a break. Ivy took a break from all this bear hunting to check out the sky. By now, I had been looking for him for over 5 hours, and part of that time was paused. What was going on here? I sent Ivy on a little walk around the park while I continued combing the streets of Ciudad Enamorada. But after a little more time, I decided to throw in the towel and head home. When we got home, I just couldn't drop this issue. I needed to find the fucking bear. It was the principle at this point. I'm no quitter. I looked up and down every goddamn street, alley, sidewalk, and any other place he could possibly be.
I would not give in.
That's when I decided to check his profile, and to my surprise, the option to move the camera to him presented itself. I never, ever knew I could do that. There he was, that sneaky piece of shit. He actually met me at the park instead, which was nice, but now it was really late. He gave me the same spiel about the fountain, so that's where we went next. At long last, I could now search the fountain for clues. Once again, Ivy tried to figure out the gnomish markings, could not translate them, and would require the assistance of the ring bear, whose lazy ass was sleeping on a bench nearby. I told Ivy to wake him up, and when she did, he told us again about the wall, so we traversed back home. Searched the wall for clues, discovered the ring's extreme power, inquired no further about its abilities, and sold it for a whopping 5,000 simoleons. I was extremely satisfied to have finished that and gotten our money, and now I'd be able to buy all kinds of toys and collectibles and other items necessary for certain collections. But for now, this was it. I adjusted the lighting to allow for a cozier feel and basked in the glory of a room full of random loot I found. And I was eager to keep on expanding and seeing where Ivy's dreams would take us next. I felt it in my bones that Ivy's brick and mortar museum would be open much sooner than later. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more of Ivy's adventure, hit the subscribe button. Thank you again to all of my supporters, and until we meet again, so long.